Good afternoon, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your detailed afternoon update on Tropical Cyclone Alfred, now rapidly developing and intensifying in the Coral Sea, well offshore from Queensland. In this forecast update, we're going to go through everything in terms of the current impacts along Queensland's coastline, the forecast track for this system, and the chances of a landfall along the Queensland coastline. A lot of detail to get through this afternoon, so if you are brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it, and stick around to the end of the video to find out exactly what the chances are of a Queensland landfall. You can see Tropical Cyclone Alfred now at Category 1 status. It's very close to getting up towards Category 2 status, and by the time this video comes out, it's likely that the Bureau of Meteorology has called this a Category 2 strength tropical cyclone, but it is really nicely developing at this time. And if we zoom in on the latest satellite frames, I would just like to go into a little bit of detail about this here. You can see a nice eye wall beginning to develop along the northern side of this system. This blob of convection basically is what we call a central dense overcast. Now that's all the thunderstorms that are rotating around the center of this tropical cyclone, so the low pressure center. And the healthier the central dense overcast is, the stronger this tropical cyclone is expected to be. And considering the fact that this is now rotating quite nicely, the thunderstorms are rotating around a common low pressure center, and you can see that especially well on the 1 hour satellite loop. You can see everything kind of swirling into a common center at this time. And these thunderstorms are moving in that clockwise fashion, that this system is now beginning to develop an eye wall, which is the precursor to the development of an eye. So this system here is really close to actually really pulling the gun here and coming up towards rapid intensification and being a relatively strong tropical cyclone. The conditions that this tropical cyclone has found itself in are very healthy for it right now. Sea temperatures are pushing 31 degrees Celsius across a wide swathe of the Coral Sea. In fact, where this system's expected to go, they'll be pushing towards that 31 degrees Celsius mark. Very warm sea temperatures regardless for the next couple of days, even as this system heads further towards the south, and I'll get to the forecast momentarily. But this system, it has had a really good start to life, and the start to life that this system has had is expected to carry over the coming couple of days as well. And if we have a look at wind shear as well and what the winds are in the upper levels, so this tropical cyclone, you can also see that it's found itself in an environment with relatively low wind shear, which is basically more or less just helping the storm develop outflow and really organize itself quite nicely. So there's really nothing bad that I can say about Tropical Cyclone Alfred at this time. It's developing along really nicely, and it is expected to get up towards severe tropical cyclone status, and that I imagine will be achieved sometime tomorrow night or into early Wednesday morning. Let's jump into the immediate forecast right now. One thing's for sure is that we know pretty much exactly the storm's motions over the next 4 or 5 days, so pay close attention here because it will have dramatic ramifications to the long-term forecast. Not too much in the way of movement expected throughout the course of tomorrow. It will then begin to pick up a little bit of pace as it moves towards the southwest, or the south towards the southwest actually through Wednesday. It will likely reach a peak intensity of Category 3 strength tropical cyclone status on Wednesday before a little bit of weakening will kick in, but really not much in the way of weakening is expected through Wednesday and into Thursday, as well as the system heads towards the Queensland coastline. The storm's still heading towards Queensland. It's about halfway between New Caledonia and Townsville at this point here on Friday night into Saturday morning, and by March the forecast really breaks down here. So out till about the 1st of March, in fact midnight the 1st of March, we've got a very good idea of where this storm is going to be going. Every forecast model and official agency knows pretty much exactly what's going to be happening here. We're going to get that easterly turn over the next couple of days, and then this system's going to turn down towards south and south-southwest at times, and then after that it could go either one of two ways. It could swing into the Queensland coastline, or it could skirt down along the Queensland coastline and then recurve out to the Coral Sea. One thing's for sure is that impacts on Queensland's coastline between the 28th of February out to about the 5th of March are now looking really likely, and whether that's a direct hit from a tropical cyclone or just a few blustery showers and rainfall, it is a little bit too early to tell at this time. So I'm going to be giving the forecast model's forecast and the official model's forecast, and then I'm going to be giving my hot take, which is basically an eclectic mix of everything that we're about to talk about over the next couple of minutes. So buckle up, a lot of information to get through here. The Eastern Weather forecast model is taking the storm a little bit down towards the south, and then it causes this system to move into the Queensland coastline. You can see actually whilst I'm recording this video, we're in the middle of an update here on the forecast models, but if we were to extrapolate this track, it is calling for the storm to basically head in towards the Rockhampton, Yeppoon sort of area here, into the Wide Bay area. Actually halfway between Mackay down towards Bundaberg is where the Eastern Weather is calling for the tropical cyclone to make its landfall on the Queensland coastline. Now, of course, you can see the major discrepancies here. We're halfway between a forecast model update. It's that time of the day. But if I was to extrapolate this forecast, we'd be looking at the Eastern Weather taking this storm into Rockhampton, which is on the northernmost side of the possibilities for this tropical cyclone to track. If we just pull this back a couple of moments and you see the GFS forecast here, you can see the GFS is still calling for this system to remain out to sea right through the first couple of days of March before swinging into the south southeastern corner of Queensland, and actually as a tropical cyclone swinging into the Sunshine Coast by the looks of things through Tuesday and Wednesday, the 4th and 5th of March, respectively. Not really making a landfall until about the 6th or the 7th of March by the looks of things, and then running up the Queensland coastline. And the reason why the GFS has such a slow track and a slow rate of progress of this tropical cyclone, and a really higgledy-piggledy and unusual track, to be honest, is because there is so much discrepancies between the ensembles, which are the smaller forecast models that make up the main forecast in the forecast models with the GFS, which the best way to explain it to you is the GFS will produce 50 possibilities for each forecast. There'll be 50 possibilities that the GFS makes, and out of those you get a mix of all of them, and that's the actual track. And out of those 50 possibilities, you've got a range with tropical cyclone landfalls right up towards Mackay, and then this system skirting along New Caledonia. So again, a huge range of uncertainty from the GFS forecast model. I hope that has made sense and not scrambled anybody. Just bear with me for the next couple of minutes. I promise I'll simplify this and start to give some answers very shortly. The Axis forecast model, which is what the Bureau of Meteorology bases their official forecasts on, you can see that this takes it into the Queensland coastline sometime around the 2nd or the 3rd of March as a pretty powerful tropical cyclone. We'd be talking about Category 3 status here right into Bundaberg. That would be a historic system, that's for sure. Moving along the Sunshine Coast. Now, one thing's for sure, if this was to eventuate, this would be a rain problem as opposed to a tropical cyclone problem. And whilst there would be extensive damage along the northern Sunshine Coast and into Bundaberg, Gladstone and out towards Rockhampton from wind, rainfall would be the main threat here. I mean, just with all the moisture being dragged in from the Coral Sea and getting dragged up into the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast hinterland, that would be a disaster, that's for sure. Now, I don't think the axis is going to eventuate here, and I will make a bit of a point of that because sea temperatures along the southeast or the south-central Queensland coastline are about 27 or 26, 27 degrees. They push up to about 28 degrees once you get up towards Rockhampton and Yeppoon, so a tropical cyclone can theoretically be quite strong into the Ogmore area, and especially in towards the Mackay area, but down a little bit further south towards Gladstone, Agnes Water and Bundaberg, you'd have a dying tropical cyclone upon landfall here. It'd be a much weaker system here because the sea temperatures, they just aren't as solid and aren't as robust here. One thing's for sure is that a tropical cyclone can sustain Category 3 status on 27 degrees Celsius sea temperatures. It's just going to be a very hard ask for it to do so. And once it gets further south and closer to the Queensland coastline, not only with land interaction as well, but you'll also have wind shear coming off Queensland. It'd be a very hard ask for this tropical cyclone to come ashore as a powerful system. That's why I think if this system does make a landfall or a close pass anywhere south of Rockhampton, it will be a very weak cyclone as a Category 1. At the absolute highest end, a very weak Category 2 strength tropical cyclone, and those systems, they're often not disasters. They can be problems, but they're often not disasters, and I would just like to stress that point. In terms of my forecast now, my hot take on the forecast, I'm basically calling for that eclectic mix between all of the major forecast models. I'm still really undecided on this system here, and this is just kind of a projection at this time. This isn't even an official forecast. I'm still really uncertain, and a lot can change over the coming couple of days. I expect this system to continue to head out towards the east and then swing down towards the south throughout tomorrow, and then I'm expecting this system to reach Category 3 status sometime on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, head towards the Queensland coastline through Wednesday and Thursday, and then by Friday it's beginning its final approach to Queensland, before approaching the Queensland coastline somewhere between Mackay down towards the Sunshine Coast, with the most likely areas being around the Gladstone and Rockhampton area this time, most likely around Rockhampton actually, where I will bring it ashore as a weak tropical cyclone there, sometime around Sunday or Monday night on the 2nd or the 3rd of March respectively there. Again, that's a very uncertain forecast, and you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm iffing and umming and butting a lot here. I'm really not 100% certain at this time, and again, there's major discrepancies between the forecast models, and things are very likely to change, but it is a little bit of a mix of what the latest Eastern Blare forecast is looking to be at this time. I mean, we've got that high degree of certainty of this tropical cyclone moving into the Queensland coastline. You can see it here with every new hour that gets added to the forecast. It does look like a more likely situation that this is going to be taken right in towards Rockhampton, and I do reckon somewhere between the 1st and the 4th of March that we will see a weak tropical cyclone landfalling on the Queensland coastline somewhere between Mackay down towards Bundaberg. That's my hot take on the system right now. It's still a week away, and there's still so much uncertainty and so many discrepancies between the forecast models. I'll get to the potential impacts in just a second, but I would just like to say that this system here, we won't know until at least Wednesday or Thursday in terms of what is actually expected for the landfall along the Queensland coastline. If one is expected, or if it's just going to be a close pass, or even if the tropical cyclone carks it just before the landfall here, or if it fires up a bunch of gnarly storms just before its landfall, I'm not 100% certain yet. We will know on Wednesday or Thursday, and there'll be twice daily forecast updates on that right out towards Wednesday or Thursday. So again, if you're not interested in all the yibba yabba and the uncertain forecasts at this time, just turn your computer off, turn your phone off from the forecasts until about Thursday, when we will be able to give you definitive answers on what is expected. And again, by Thursday, we will only be a couple of days away from the potential landfall from this tropical cyclone, so you'll still have about 4 days to prepare for this system here. It's not going to be like recently past tropical cyclone Zelia, where they were basically given 12 hours to prepare for a category 5 strength tropical cyclone, which thankfully didn't eventuate. We'll have plenty of time to prepare for tropical cyclone Alfred if it does end up lining up the Queensland coastline for a landfall. In terms of potential impacts, if this does come ashore as a category 2 or 3 strength tropical cyclone, it will be a significant hit. Now, that's only likely to happen if it passes through Mackay down towards Rockhampton. Like I said, anywhere further south of Rockhampton, it'll be a dying tropical cyclone, category 1 or category 2 status, and even on the Sunshine Coast, I reckon they'll be closer towards tropical low status down there. You'll still have strong wind gusts up to 125 kilometers an hour, regardless of where the system becomes ashore, and likely stronger wind gusts in exposed and coastal locations. Heavy rainfall is also a major threat from this tropical cyclone. If you take a look at forecast models here, we're looking at the chances of some very big time rainfall accumulations here. I mean, the Eastern Weather model hasn't really updated, as you can see, but I would just like to draw back to the Access forecast model, which is certainly a worst case scenario in terms of rainfall, but if it does skirt along the Queensland coastline, especially down towards the Sunshine Coast, where we see immense rainfall accumulations into the hinterland around Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, we could be talking about rainfall accumulations up to 1,000 millimeters through here. That would be a worst case scenario, again, that's for sure, but widespread accumulations between 200 and 500 millimeters can be expected along the Sunshine Coast if it does make a passage through there, and then widespread accumulations between 200 and 300 millimeters between Mackay down towards Rockhampton if we see a landfall through this area, with isolated falls up to about 700 millimeters possible, especially into the mountains adjacent to Mackay, and then some of the mountains south of Rockhampton down to Gladstone and Agnes Water. Some significant falls can be expected there. Again, a lot of the rainfall forecast is dependent on where this tropical cyclone does make landfall, and even if it does, I think regardless of this system making landfall, if it does skirt along the Queensland coastline, the Sunshine Coast is pretty much guaranteed to receive rainfall at this time, and in terms of the chances of that happening, it's probably about that 50-50. 50% it skirts the Queensland coastline, and then 50% it goes in for a landfall. But again, those landfall chances right now are still very low. They are rising, but they are very low. I would just like to finish this video off by saying that there is no need to panic for those residents in Queensland. I know this is a very concerning time, and I imagine a lot of people are now starting to really take this threat quite seriously, considering that it is a tropical cyclone now out in the Coral Sea. We've seen how systems behave before in the Coral Sea, and it is a scary system. It is expected to get quite strong, and I understand why people are starting to get a little bit nervous and a little bit on edge with this system. But there's nothing that we can do here. There's no answers that are going to be provided, or no definitive answers that can be provided until at least Wednesday night, and probably out towards Thursday morning. So again, just if you're really panicking right now, just turn the phone off, turn the forecasts off until about Thursday. These are mainly updates at this point. They're all hunches. I mean, the majority of this video here has just been a bit of a hunch forecast, basically, and I do again apologize for that. It's by no means my intention to release half-baked information here, but that is my best guess based on what I have to see here with the forecast models and the satellite picture. So again, I've done my best here, but we just don't know for certain. There's no need to panic. There's no need to prepare for this tropical cyclone. There's no need to evacuate from this tropical cyclone just yet, but I want everybody between the Whitsundays down through Mackay, Rockhampton, Gladstone, down towards Bundaberg, and even along the Sunshine Coast and into southeast Queensland to be watching the forecast very closely and keeping a close eye on this system from Thursday onwards and seeing what happens. Again, by Thursday, we'll know more or less exactly where this system is going to make a landfall. If it does, chances for that are rising, but again, they're not significant, and they're still in the single-digit percentages at this time. There's a massive scope of uncertainty with this tropical cyclone. I want everybody to understand that to the best of their ability. That is all that I have time for today. I do want to say a special thank you to the channel sponsors. The names Orange Screw, and again, I could not run this show without them. Their support is much appreciated. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. I do apologize that there's been no definitive answers either from Tropical Cyclone Alfred just yet. It's a very, very difficult time as a forecaster in regards to this tropical cyclone. We're all just doing our best out here. So again, any feedback is more than welcome. I'd love to hear some feedback or constructive criticism in the comment section down below, so feel free to drop that there. Leave a like on the video if you haven't, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, but that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.